Is there an intuitive way to think about the intermediate axis theorem? I think yes, there is. Picture a wheel, an axle. At the center of the axle, that axle goes in the opposite direction to the wheel does. And you can prove this is true to yourself. Go right to the very center of that axle. Yes, the outside of it is going in the same direction as the wheel. So where does the wheel stop and the axle begin? So go to the very center and go atomic and draw a clockwise rotating yin-yang there. Black and white, 2 dots. And it's rotating clockwise. That's a two-dimensional bearing. So the reason it goes in a different direction is because it is making the space in time for the lever arm to move into. It's the final motion of a lever arm atomically. So you can go back and look at all the information about why that makes, atomically, why that makes sense, or just go, okay, like in a photograph, like when you film something, a car driving past on a TV, it looks like the wheels are going backwards sometimes, depending on the speed of the way that it's filmed. It's exactly the same. It's perception. So draw the clockwise yin-yang two-dimensionally at the center. Now, take the yin-yang out. That's the bearing. So it's a free bearing, and all our rotation is relative to it. Whether it's moving or not is irrelevant. It's just we're moving, it's moving, there's motion relative to each other. Make that three-dimensional, the yin-yang. Now, we can go right round it. We can go right round it. Round the middle, round the equator. And in this ecliptic plane. So that the two dimensions that we expanded into a sphere is lying flat as a surface. And that has a wobble. And that is the range that we're observing from, of the yin-yang, of the 2D. Get me? So it can do this. That's all it can do. The center of it has a y-axis. As the surface can do this, the y-axis will do this. A vector axis, it means it's an axis that's moving. Okay? So you've now got this unstable axis. Can you see this assembly now? So come back out now to the third axis spherum and draw the three axes, x, y, and z, and know that the y-axis is a vector axis. And think about the Earth, and that this bearing exists in the center of the Earth. Science says that a magnetic pole switch can't occur because we're not the greatest moment of mass. Yes, we are. So we are the bending of that vector axis. It's got a slight bend in it from 90 degrees. It veers off at 137 arc seconds because it has a bending moment on it. And what causes that bending moment? Matter with life. So matter with forward momentum looks like orbital angular momentum. If you trace that orbital angular momentum back through to conservation of energy in Euler's rigid body axis theorem, and you find it there, where does it come from? It's the bending. The bending of the vector axis creates a tilting of the yin-yang of the surface of the sphere that is relative to, but not exact to, the bending of the vector axis. And there's the instability. So when you are a spinning object, so our inertial frame of reference is spinning. The universe spins about the x-axis at the speed of c. As it does so, it has a wobble in it. That's the only action it can do. It's not going to orbit, no. It'll just wobble on it about that spin axis. And that wobble creates a difference from the center to the end. It's a different dimension at the end. And that creates another dimension. That's space-time. the spinning, creates that dimension. That's the two-dimensional yin-yang. You just take it from this universal size and transfer it right down to a time particle at the center of the planet, and there is a bearing that can have total 360 rotation with no gimbal lock in the plane in which it is able to rotate, the wobble of the spin. It can move everywhere without interfering with itself because it's connected by light. So light and matter can pass through each other, and that creates gravity. And it bends the light, and the bending light from the gravity creates the infinitesimal change on the vector axis, which puts a bit more tilt on the wobble of the XY to slant it one way to keep an imbalance in the whole system. And then come back out to our wheel. There's our cartwheel. Look at the center, and there's a yin-yang. Clockwise rotation, angled top to bottom, it's not moving. The principal axis. It's bold as love. I'll show you where the axis of evil is when you look at this information. Welcome to New Earth.